Roseville Rotary, and I'm very pleased to have some international guests with me here today. Denise Clichan, how do I say your name anywhere close?
Perfectly.
Okay.
Yes.
And Denise is German, but she's coming to us from Spain today. And Param Saini, Dr. Param is coming to us from India. I don't know which part, you're gonna have to tell me.
Punjab, North India.
Okay, and Ane Atansa is one of our Roseville Rotarians. She is an international humanitarian, and I will introduce them more a little bit later. I'd like to start with a video clip. It's just about a minute long, and it will tell you a little bit about our program here. Is it coming through?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Then I am not sure why it's not, and we're going to skip it. So it's just a little 1-minute video, and we're going to cover much of that material later. So I think we will just wait. So I'm going to just start out by introducing Denise. Like I said, Denise was born in Germany. She is a real estate lawyer. She lives in, is it Ibiza, Spain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you work kind of in Barcelona as well?
Yes.
Okay. So if you want to contact Denise about purchasing some property on this cute little island, she can talk to you in 3 different languages. So we're completely set there. So let me try now and share her presentation. Are you seeing it?
Yes.
All right. So there you go.
Thank you. Shall I start?
Yeah, no, Denise, are you seeing the presentation mode, or are you seeing the full screen?
Presentation mode.
Presentation mode. We've seen the first slide and also the next slide be next to it.
I don't know why that happens. So let's see. Let me just give it a different try here.
I think if you double click on the first slide, it may open.
I was just going to try and get it out of presentation mode.
Go
So,
to from the beginning.
okay, how about now? Did it start?
Oh, you have to go to the part that says from the beginning on the next row.
There you go. Yep.
Yes, this on the left. There.
Whoops,
Double-
I just redid
Oh, you
your
missed it. There.
slideshow.
Double
Resume
click.
slideshow. All right. All right. Well, let's just go ahead and have you start, Denise. Appreciate it.
Yes. If you do double click on from beginning, I think it should open up there, left here, and double click.
Yeah, it's just acting funny.
Okay. We can discuss.
Check the drop down there, Deb.
I think we can use the slides like this as well.
Okay. Well,
All right. Double click on the first slide on the left where it says number 1. If you just double click on the slide here, there.
yeah. See, this thing pulls up.
Okay.
Oh, click it up.
Yeah, check that. There you go.
Add or remove buttons.
No.
Oh, I would just.
You just
Yeah.
go through the slides like this. I think they're perfect like this.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me, Deb. Actually, today is the International Day for Menstrual Health and Hygiene. And so for us, this is kind of a birthday. So we're celebrating it. And I'm the secretary of the recently created Rotary Action Group for Menstrual Health and Hygiene. And our slogan is break the silence. We want to talk about menstrual health and hygiene, or shortly MHH. And I will tell you today why we created this action group, what it is for, and what our mission is. So let's go to the next slide, please. So the first question is, what is Rotary Action Group for Menstrual Health and Hygiene? And let's go even a step back. What is a Rotary Action Group? Rotary Action Groups are independent, Rotary affiliated groups founded by Rotarians and or Rotaractors from around the world who are experts in a particular field. And anybody can become a member, non-Rotarians and Rotarians. Everybody can be a member of an action group. Next slide, please. The Rotary Action Group for Menstrual Health and Hygiene is obviously an action group that has the focus on the topic of menstrual health and hygiene. And we shortly call it RAGMHH. And this was approved very recently by Rotary International on the 2nd of March of this year. Next one. So next question, why would we choose MHH as a global project? In uncountable areas of this world, girls and women do not have access to hygienic articles such as tampons, sanitary napkins, and or menstruation cups. Apart from that, they do not have access to clean water nor privacy areas such as bathrooms or lavatories. Next. And this project of menstrual health and hygiene complies with all 7 areas of focus of Rotary International. Tell me if you can think of any other project that you have ever done under the umbrella of Rotary that complies with all of them. Very quickly, it's peace building and conflict prevention, although I admit that this is not visible on first sight, the link between menstrual health and hygiene and peace building and conflict prevention, but this deserves another meeting. And I'm happy to come back to shed some light on this because it's a very, very interesting topic. More easily to see on first sight, it's maternal and child health, water sanitation and hygiene, supporting the environment, disease prevention and treatment, basic education and literacy. Think that girls pop out of school when they don't have hygienic articles because they are just staying at home waiting that their days of their period is passing by. And finally, community economic development. Think that girls that don't have schooling will never really have proper jobs and be able to maintain themselves and contribute to their communities. Next slide, please. What is our mission? Well, there are several aspects, but I think the most important one is the dignity. We want to enhance dignity to women and girls and enable them to live a self-determined life, have access to education and economic self-maintenance, and break the circle of dependence from parents, husbands, or other members of their family. Of course, we also want to reduce menstrual waste. Think that we are creating an average of, every woman in her period life is creating an average of 100 kilo or 220 pounds of menstrual waste. And we want to reduce period poverty. Next one. So important is, as I said at the beginning, to break the silence about menstrual health. We want to do this by raising information campaigns within and outside Rotary and to create awareness of MHH and break taboos. Next. We want to educate girls and boys, women and men about MHH. We start education programs at schools and villages through on-site Rotary clubs and local stakeholders, civic bodies, government, NGOs, religious and tribal leaders, and politicians and doctors, etc. Next. With this, we hope to improve life circumstances of girls and women in underprivileged areas, because we would like to provide reusable and or biodegradable sanitary products and access to water and lavatories. With this, we want to empower women economically and thus strengthen their self-determination. With this, for example, by sewing cloth napkins, we can create microeconomies of for women in villages, and then these women can sell the sanitary cloths and start to have their own little income. Next. As mentioned before, we need to reduce menstrual waste. This is a problem rather in the first world countries, if I can call it like this, like the US or in European countries, Canada, Australia, because we have obviously access to hygienic articles, but we are many and we're just throwing them into the waste every day. So we have to contribute to the environmental protection by providing biodegradable or reusable clothes and menstruation cups. Next. And very, very important, period poverty. This is a problem all over the world. If you think that in your wealthy country, you don't have period poverty, I promise you that you're completely wrong. Period poverty means that a woman cannot afford hygienic articles. And there are women in all our communities. I also live in a very, very wealthy place, and we have many rich people living in our community. Nevertheless, I know we have women here who don't have the money for hygienic articles, and when their period starts, they have to choose between buying sanitary napkins or food for their kids. A woman in that situation will always go for the food, obviously, and this is what we call period poverty. So what we want to do is to provide girls and women with reusable menstrual cups or reusable sanitary pads. Okay, next one, please. This leads us to our next question. How can Rotarians contribute to menstrual health and hygiene? You will see there are several ways how to contribute. First of all, and this is the usual way what we do in Rotary, join powers. Everybody can help with what he or she knows best. Collaborate with local counterparts to provide schools and or villages with water supply and gender-based lavatories. Take care of its maintenance through local tie-ups in form of Rotary community corps, school alumni, local corporates, etc. Next. Talk about it, break the silence. Dispel myths and create education to make sure girls and boys are encouraged to speak up and not treat this as some taboo. And I repeat, it's important to include boys and men because they are part of our society. It's important to take the stigma out and make them understand it's a natural process and nothing to be ashamed of. Just yesterday, I took two friends. They have a little girl. She's 10 years old and she had her first period just 2 months ago. She doesn't want anybody in her class to know about that because she's afraid that the boys will laugh about her. And this is exactly what we want to avoid. And this is why we say we have to talk to the boys and to men. We have to explain them exactly what's happening in our bodies when we are menstruating. And we have to educate boys how to behave when a girl is on her period. And maybe in her clothes, she has a blood stain and she feels unprotected, or she has belly aches or anything like that. They have to learn it, and then our society can work much better because it's just a normal part of all those things that are happening amongst us. For those education campaigns, ask help from professional adolescent counselors, teachers, gynecologists, or any other person who would be the right person for that. Show alternatives. Provide education of various alternatives of period products, their pros and cons, and stress green product options, as there are, for example, the menstruation cups or the cloth napkins that Days for Girls is suing. You can ask help from trained healthcare workers, Rotarians, from Days for Girls, and of course from us. Take action. We are Rotarians, so we always want to take action. Distribute different menstrual hygiene articles and explain which ones are appropriate for each age, life circumstances, etc. Their menstruation cups, their biodegradable sanitary napkins, and their reusable cloth napkins. Economic empowerment. Provide training and setting up of facilities to produce reusable pads. This creates economic empowerment and self-sustainable activity, which also promotes a green environment. Convince and change. Communicate and bring change through community stakeholders like local civic bodies, government, NGOs, religious and tribal leaders, politicians, doctors, volunteers, community members, and schools. Very, very important. Use the help also of other RAGs. There are many action groups in Rotary. Some of them exist quite a long time, others are recently set up. And action groups are an amazing vehicle to receive help and assessment, and also to realize projects also on a bigger scale, but also on a smaller scale in your own community. We also work with other RAGs, obviously, because many of these projects that are related with MHH have different aspects. There is WASH RAG, which is Water, Sanitation, Hygiene Action Group. Then there is a RAG for mother and child care. And for example, there is a RAG for community development and microfinance. So whatever is the focus of the MHH project you would like to realize, there is no problem in reaching out to us and also reaching out to more than one RAG and ask for collaboration and common help on this. Next. That's it. Thank you for your attention. You can visit, as always, on our homepage, which is ragmhh.org. You can see us on Facebook, RAG Menstrual Health and Hygiene. And you have Deb's contact details. She has mine. I'm always accessible for everybody. And whenever you would like to know something else, you need help, just reach out to us and don't be shy. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. That was wonderful. What a great overview.
That was really great.
Yeah, good to see. Param, do you want to get ready to screen share?
Yes,
And
please.
I would like to introduce you next. So Dr. Param Saini comes to us on the topic of bringing empowerment to women through menstrual hygiene. Param lived in Southern California for like 30 years, then she moved back to India to do social work. She got her PhD in clinical psychology and worked for the Department of Children and Family Services, Los Angeles County. She has served Rotary in many different ways, and she's an ardent supporter of the cause of education for girls. She initiated a project, Gift for Change, manufacturing sanitary pads and distributing them amongst adolescent girls in schools, and educating menstrual hygiene management to reduce the dropout rate of girls when they reach menarche. So help me to welcome Param. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So my topic is bringing empowerment to women through menstrual hygiene. And basically what Denise told us, I think seems like I will be reiterating the same things there because we think we come from the same school of thought. So I wanted to also share the same thing that you have done. So maybe a little bit different. So when we talk about menstruation hygiene, I think there's a common perception that only the third world countries have people face challenges for socioeconomic, sociocultural taboos and stigmas, and people, girls and women, they don't have any access to sanitary products there, neither do they have access to any bathroom facilities. But however, the research has been done and it shows that even in the most developed countries like USA, girls and women face the problem of having no access to sanitary products. And despite the wide availability of the sanitary products, there are people, they cannot afford to buy these sanitary products. And also, there is also shame surrounding regarding that time of the period that people keep quiet. So there is a stigma, there's a period stigma, there is the silence. So all these things actually, they give rise to the period poverty. So this is global situation. In the Western countries, all over, this situation is there. And it's like a big elephant there, and no one wants to see it. Particularly public health issue, it's a really serious issue, and it's being overlooked. And I think we really need to address this issue. And here I have gathered some very reliable resources. We already see that about half the population of this world, they are menstruating, and 500 million women and girls, they have no easy access to sanitary facilities. UNICEF recently estimates that 50% of women in UK, they lack access to sanitary products. I quoted Lancet. Lancet is a UK-based medical journal, and even Lancet is talking about the period poverty that the girls, particularly the girls from poor families, they have nothing with them to have a dignified day, those 5 dignified days to cover themselves. So not only these girls in the poverty, there are transgender people, there are girls with disabilities, there are homeless people. Where do they go? Of course, people are on welfare checks and they get their food stamps, and unfortunately, they can't get their sanitary pads in exchange of that. And there was a time when I was in London, and I met a lady there. She has a very small child, but so she was to make a choice to pick milk powder or to pick sanitary pad for her. This was such a deprivation, but of course she picked baby milk for her baby. But because these people don't have these sanitary pads, look at all the, they resort to all these products, and some of them even go to the public bathrooms, they collect their tissue papers there, they wear their children's diapers. So whatever they can get hold of them, they wear those things. And kind of it's kind of very beyond expectation that is it really happening in America? So what is the outcome of this culture of silence? Because no one is willing to talk about this. There's no conversation around this. So, and no access to any products. So what is happening again? Girls and women are doing whatever they can find hand on. And as a result of that, girls don't go to school. They drop out of the school, and usually girls, they drop out of the school when they are in the 6th and 7th standard. And that particular age, because they already feel uncomfortable, they don't have anything reliable that they can feel, there won't be any seepage. So that's the time when they start getting teasing and humiliations from their peers. So they altogether stop going to school. Definitely it has a negative impact on their self-esteem. Their body begins to change. When their body begins to change, then society and people put too many restrictions on them. No running, no playing, no skipping, no participation in games. So it's like you are women now, you need to be docile, you need to stay home, you need to get married, you need to have children. So all of a sudden, such a double standard in our society that men, boys at this age, they are given total freedom while women are totally restrained. So at this age, then they have no education, they have no employment, so early marriage, no employment, and then because of the poor hygiene, poor conditions, poor menstruation, there are high risk of infections or cervical cancers. And in India alone, 62,000 women are diagnosed with cervical cancer each year, and 2/3 of these women have this cervical cancer due to poor menstrual hygiene. Now, if we look at this, it's such a simple biological factor, and but still it seems to be becoming a hindrance to someone's life. It's like women cannot experience safe, healthy, and affordable way to experience their menstruation. And this is definitely a human rights issue. And I would also recommend you to watch this movie. This is a documentary. I don't know how many of you have seen this. This is an original CBS and original documentary. Period. Half the population has one, but no one talks about it. In this documentary, Grace Meng, who is a congressman, she's a member of U.S. House of Representatives. And in her interview to CBS and Anchor, she talks about an incident that the first time when she had her period in school, how she felt that day. So she's talking about that she could never forget that walk of shame to the bathroom in an attempt to hide her traces of menstruations. And isn't it kind of it's so pathetic that you feel the need to hide your periods from your friends, from your peers, from your families, because it shows that we are thoroughly oppressed in this society, that we cannot even feel, that we cannot even tell them, or we cannot even we cannot even pretend that it's okay. We can just do something and we can still walk with confidence. No, but it's not happening here. And it's amazing that if this is happening in US, and if people need to feel not to talk about this, and they have to manage it discreetly, they have to talk about it privately, I am amazed that what kind of uphill task we have to cover when we are dealing with same things in the third world countries. This is definitely going to be one big task, bringing people out of these century-old stigmas, century-old traditions, and their beliefs. It will be definitely very hard for us to do that. Now, if you look at us, all these businesses, they are making money, they are making sanitary products, they are flourishing business, and but no one, they're not concerned with women. I mean, they are making products, they are making money because we are menstruating, but no one is talking about it. And it is costing millions and millions of dollars in health and environment of the world. So maybe it's time for us to get these CEOs, to get these directors and bring them to the table. And we have to have a dialogue about menstrual blood. We have to, they have to stop viewing menstrual blood as embarrassing and as shameful, because if they start doing it, we can do a lot. They are the one, they really need to work with us, and it's very important. Now, period, end of sentence. I borrowed this word from 2 years back. There was a documentary movie was made, and that was the title of that movie. So because of our unwillingness to discuss it as a normal process, it leads to menstruation being perceived as unclean and embarrassing. The feeling of embarrassment and self-hate is also then reinforced when society start telling women that their bodies are dirty, that their bloods are impure, gross, disgusting, foul-smelling. And I think it's a kind of a sign of misogyny that you are naming something essentially which is feminine, and you are naming it as disgusting, as dirty. So if you remember, a few months ago, Donald Trump's comments to Kelly Megan, that was such a misogynist comments, and that was very disgusting. So you could see that these things are in this country. People don't think twice when they try to humiliate women because they are bleeding, because they are sipping. So we need to really talk with this man. That's more important at this time. And here is just a little snapshot of the consequences of the period stigma around the world. And these, again, are UNICEF findings, reliable findings. So look at these. Either you can look at North America continent or any African countries, Asian countries. So basically, if you look at it, what do we see here? This is like all these myths, they are associated with curse, impurity, black magic, pads are bewitched, and pads have the power and to make men infertile or cow infertile. So these are all black magic things that are associated with these used sanitary products. And with such myths, they make girls victim of their own bodies, and by making them feel not acceptable in the society. And by imposing such myths, what they are doing is they are also discouraging women from socio-economic freedom. Women will never be able to go out. They can never stand on their feet. So it's better to just put all these stigmas on them. And and imagine if women have been listening to all these things, what kind of a havoc it has been done to their psyche. So it's important to help to talk to these women and to bring them out of that shell or out of that cocoon that they have been hiding in there. Putting men into menstruation, I think it's about time. You've been talking about that. Either they are the CEOs, the directors of all those companies, or are Rotarians. We need to really involve them. They need to become a part of our conversation. Now, this taboo about the beer, I heard somewhere that their periods attract beer, and the beer can smell the menstruation. I mean, look at this. This is like these myths come in all type and all forms, and the belief that menstruation women attract women, it has led the US government to warn menstruating women from hiking in Yellowstone Park. Again, this is another way of controlling. This has probably never been proven, but because these are some patriarchal ideologies, and they like to, it's their male privilege, so they can make some rules, set some do's and don'ts, and we are blindly following them. No one even really knows any credibility there, not. And this other picture is from my club. He is Rotarian, past president Rotarian, Vikas Babbar. And this guy has been really very proactively involved in our sanitary pad campaign, and he's always there. He has a young girl, very young girl, 5-6-year-old daughter. So I think because of that, he's a father of a daughter. I can see that how passionately he's working with us on this product. So, okay, I won't be talking about these myths in India. They're more or less the same myths. Okay, here I have tried to bring these taboos from all over the country. And the top one, I have to sleep separately from others. It's very common in Nepal. In winter, in dark, these girls are put separately away from their family. And recently there have been some accidents, some girl got killed. So I think the government is kind of putting some strict rules on them, but I don't know if it's gonna disappear or not. But these girls, as young as 4 or 5, they have been going there, not 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. I can't attend religious function. This is very common in India, very common in Islamic countries. And that girl then down there, this one here, she is sleeping in a cow shed, because it's also very common. Put a girl, menstruating girl or women, they put them away in a cow shed in a chilling winter. They are there. I don't attend school. This is very common in America. 1 in 5 girls, they miss their school. I'm not allowed to cook. Again, very common in India and in some other Muslim countries. So they have too many restrictions. They can't eat certain food. They can't wash their bodies. It's amazing. If by chance women touches a man and man has to sprinkle some water to clean himself. But on the other hand, women can't clean herself for 5 days because she is impure. So look at this. Don't you think that all these taboos which are imposed here, there is a reason behind that. Why are they doing this? Because I think okay. So are these kind of unwritten food taboos or touch taboos or seclusion taboos or restriction taboos? It's like a more like a dominant culture is trying to show that they are more privileged ones and that they have the right, they have the access to better and comfortable life, and they have access to better food. And women, all these restrictions on women, what to eat, what not to eat, is a way of dehumanizing them, is a way of telling them that you are less important, that your health is not that important. So all these myths, these traditional old, these myths, they are kind of justify their privileges. Not only they justify their privileges, but at the same time, it authorized abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse to the women who, according to them, is leaking and seeping. It's really a pathetic situation globally. And probably if some of us probably have never been exposed to these situations, but that doesn't mean that these things don't happen. These are very common and it happens. And these are the kind of people, these are the kind of taboos that we really need to work on. Otherwise,
Param, can you wrap up in another minute or so?
Oh, okay.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so I think I will not go over these things because these were some comprehensive approaches that we thought that we need to do. So we all know that we have to have some wash facilities in schools where they can have hand washing facilities, and then some disposable bins has to be there so that the children can have decent cleaning facilities there. Again, I think she has also, and Debbie has already talked about this. So these are the products, different products that we can, I think if we can work with some other people, we can really improve the availability, affordability, and range of menstrual hygiene products, especially in rural areas. And here, the most important thing is we have never included men and boys in our conversation, neither at school nor at home. I think it's very important that they need to come and we need to start talking with them, because what happens is when they don't know anything, they have this perceived idea that menstrual topic is only for women. So then they have their own prejudices, own ideas, which probably not help them ultimately. So important to bring them. And teachers need to be trained also. I met with some teachers. They have the knowledge, but then at the same time, teachers feel quite awkward talking about this subject. So we really, it's best to talk to the teachers first. Again, this one here, I think we know that UNICEF has already been doing a lot, and it's now Rotary's turn that maybe we can work together. And as a Rotary action group, I think we can all probably need to talk to the teachers, to the parents. We have to have a meeting with these community leaders, and they can be our we call it trainer. So I think we have to make them a part of our action group, so we can help them and they can help us to dispel these stigmas and help our youngsters. Last but not least, a world without period poverty and stigma is possible. And of course, it took us a long, but if you think the menstrual blood has remained hidden when it was shown as a blue blood instead of a red blood. And it's time to challenge old attitudes in media and not hiding menstrual blood in blue. And if you remember, we saw some change take place in when Procter and Gamble, they featured a red dot on sanitary pad. So I think if we can start doing it, we can really work. We can make people understand that our women, our girls need more loving and more inclusive environment, and their red dot should be acceptable to us. It has nothing to feel ashamed of. Thank you.
Thank you, Param. That was just fantastic. We did ask, get somebody in the questions asked if we could share the presentations. I know that we were recording it and you can get a copy of the recording, but are you guys interested or able to share your presentations?
Sure.
Okay, we will do that. In the interest of time, I'm going to actually skip my presentation because I want to be able to hear from Ane. I just want to show you one picture, and this is a picture of the Days for Girls kit. So I run a team for Days for Girls. Pre-COVID, I had over 350 volunteers. And so we make all of the products that go into this kit. And this item here is called a shield. I'm hoping you can see my cursor. Think panty liner with wings. And then in the middle is an absorbent pad, and that's made out of flannel. So that's the absorbent part. And you just tuck the top and bottom into pockets. The girls also get a bar of soap. They get a washcloth, a couple of pairs of panties. They get 2 of these shields, these, panty liner with wings kind of thing. And there's a waterproof layer in there so that the menstrual flow doesn't go through. And they get 8 of these pads and then a pretty little bag to carry everything to and from school. And then this is a menstrual cup here. It's very soft silicone and very flexible. Those are expensive, and so fundraising really helps with that particular item. And anyways, this is what I do is I run a team of volunteers that makes those. So if you're interested in, this is just one of many types of organizations that's dealing with this topic, Days for Girls. So if you want more information, just get in contact with me. but I really want to turn it over to Ane for the last 10 minutes. And Ane is a Roseville Rotarian, and she is a true humanitarian. She works for Alight, which is a nonprofit that deals with refugees all over the world. And she has taken some of these Days for Girls kits and brought them to Ethiopia, and amongst other projects. So Ane, if you want to go ahead and get screen sharing there. Appreciate you all being here today.
Sorry. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll time myself. I'll make sure. Am I mute or you can't hear?
No, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave, for inviting me to present among this amazing woman that actually I'm looking forward to learn from you guys in the future. Again, thank you for bringing me here. And I'll make my presentation really short. I was thinking, like, you know, after I see all who's the presenting, I know we're going to repeat ourselves because it's everything is the same all over the world, what our girl is experiencing. So I will just take you to my trip by showing you the picture. I decided just to put the picture because the picture actually tells, you know, 1,000 words, right? And I will just start with this. I like this picture. This is a school after I distribute the reusable pad, which we call it the kits. And as you know, evidence confirms many of the girls drop out of school altogether once they begin menstruating. Per UNESCO report estimates that 1 in 10 girls in sub-Saharan Africa misses schools during their menstrual cycle. By some estimate, this equals as much as 20% of a given school year. After actually I read this information somewhere, I was working on a water project to go back to Ethiopia. Then I decided I have to add this project on my journey. And in the late 2019, before I joined a Rotary Club, I started volunteering to a Days of Girls South Minneapolis chapter. 2 months later, in February 2020, I was able to collect more than 500 reusable pads from 2 clubs and travel to the most needed place on the planet, which is East Africa, Ethiopia, and the Oromia region. One of the club actually, the one Dave is running, I got half of the reusable pad from her Days of Girls. So I'll make sure I don't use much time. This is the luggage at the airport. You can see I took more than 10 luggage and it cost me about $2,000. I have to pay like $200 per suitcase. That is really ridiculous, but it's worth it. So here, this school was my first interaction. As you see, the burden of shame, even what I realized, I did not realize how much it is a taboo to talk about this issue. And this is like a very rural school, a very remote school, and 160 kilometers away from the capital city called Addis Ababa. When I first started talking, you know, you have to give the training. Everyone was like, they couldn't even see my eye. It was a big shame. No one talked about it. And I have to ask for a main teacher to leave the classroom, okay? And start sharing my own experience, telling them I have, you know, a younger girl who just to see a period, it's not a shame. And also I have to ask like how many girls already see this. No one raised their hand.
Okay. Then I just dive into the training and show them, how they can use, what kind of material is, how it helped them. All of the sudden, one by one, they start raising their hand. Like I was touched. And when I ask them, like in the group, they don't say anything. When you ask them separately, they will tell you what they went through and what it means, to have this kid. And I said, wow, because that was, even for me, was an eye-opening experience. Okay. Then at the end of the training and the conversation, they were happy. Everybody started like talking to each other for the first time, even girls to girls. Okay. And hearing the experience, how many days they miss school and what kind of material they use, and the shame that if, it comes at school, how these boys laugh at them, and even in their own family, the treatment they got every month when they have this is just heartbreaking. So you can see here. So I start asking after they became like more comfortable if they can come and touch it, and also like, show to the other student how it works. Now you can see like the confidence on this young girls, because here is like, the burden of shame, lifting that burden of shame, at least building confidence and self-esteem, even to talk and to touch front of their friends. Then here you can see after I gave them how much they're so happy and confident to hold it up, take a picture with me. It was about 150 school girls from 6th grade to 8th grade received a reusable pad after I gave them the orientation. The village called Falle Koroftan, located 160 kilometers from the capital city of Addis Ababa. I make sure I really reach the young girls who live a very remote area, because usually, when we do this kind of thing, is people will just go the outskirts of, the capital city or the capital city, even though they don't maybe have the ability to purchase, still they have some kind of information. But these girls don't even have the information and forget about like purchasing the stuff. So I also went another place, this one called Karayu Oromo. They live on the Rift Valley of East Africa. They are very like culturally rich location. And this is the moms and the young girls included. I distribute to all of them. This one is also kind of close to the same area, a very desert area. You can see it's very remote. This is a school girls. This one is on the west. I traveled to the west part of Ethiopia. This is Ambo. This is a university student actually. They selected for me the poorest of the poor who don't really afford to purchase any kind of sanitary pad. So they came, you can see how much, they're so happy after they receive. I will take you to the second one. This one is on, Ethiopia has this IDP, which is the internally displaced people. In 2017-18, there was a lot of displacement because of the conflict between the border between Somalia and Ethiopia. So I was one of the women who helped build 51 house for this woman. So I went for the second time to visit them. You can see the mix of young girls and the moms. The moms is also very young actually. So I was able to give them the training and also distribute. And this three, the last three pictures, very touchy, and I really liked that. You can see this girl was so shy first when I entered the class. Very, very shy to talk. They couldn't even like see their teacher. They were so ashamed, to speak about the issue. But after I gave them a training, you know, I showed them and they start like opening up, and, you know, even their mood changed throughout the training. And at the end, you can see how happy they are, and everybody try to hug me and thank me. And now like they are here comfortable telling me all their experience and personal story, which is I came back with, and I vow to myself, I will do whatever I can to help them. So at the end of my journey, I have visited 5 middle school, 1 university, 1 IDP, and 2 very remotely village, and distributed more than 500 reusable pads. Every interaction was an eye-opening and a life-changing experience. I came back with a heavy shoulder to advocate and lift the heavy burden of shame this young women live with, and keep them at school with dignity. Keep our girls in school, including the smile. Thank you so much for your time. Service above self. Thank you.
Oh my goodness, Ane, I have tears in my eyes. That was so beautiful. Thank you all for all you do. Kathy, can you tell me if you have time for a few questions, or do you need to shut the meeting down?
We have time. We have time for a few questions.
Okay, I think Ken Crabb had a question for Dr. Saini.
So get my picture back up here. I'm a gynecologist, Saini, and cervical cancer is caused by HPV infections, which is generally transmitted sexually. And I'm not quite grasping the relationship between menstrual health and cervical cancer.
I think, well, of course, I'm not a medical doctor, and of course, doctor, you probably can really make me understand. But while I was working on it, I think what we found was when we found more cases of cervical cancer among these women, one of the causes was found was because these women were using everything like old clothes, rags, sands, whatever they could get hold of it. So all these things were infectious. There was no clean water to clean themselves. So probably when that cancer, if they had some kind of an infection for a long time, was there a possibility that that could have caused into cancer? Because this is what it was observed, that when every year out of 60,000 cases of cervical cancer, this is what is reported, that 2/3 of them are because of poor menstrual hygiene.
Well, as I said, the cervical cancer is caused by the virus, human papillomavirus, and we do not think that it is spread by indirect contact. I think it has to be direct contact. So just because they found an association in these patients doesn't necessarily mean it's a cause and effect. So I just, I'd be delighted to read some articles and pursue it more scientifically than we can at the moment. But that was a major concern of mine. Otherwise, this is a great presentation. I agree. This is a very important area, and I applaud all the work that's being done. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I would have loved to have this conversation with another gynecologist, that she would have probably been able to have a better discussion with you.
Thank you. It'd be great. I sent you a private chat with my email on it, so you can share that with your gynecologist friend.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we have a gynecologist in our action group, so I will share your number with her.
Are there other questions for any of the panelists here? Well, I'd like to thank you again. If you could give a round of applause to our fabulous panelists. They're all, those were great presentations. And I just want to thank you all for the work that you're doing, really tireless work. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate your time. And Kathy, I believe that this will be on the District 5960 website.